advice for
For
newlyweds, those who just got married, what would you say?
I would say two things. One is to be patient, and two, really to cling to what God says. He is working in you. He's working in your husband if he's a believer, and just to constantly together go to Christ. And I would say be patient. I certainly wasn't. What about you?
Yeah, I would say grab an older couple right away.
That's good. Yeah.
You know, and walk with them closely.
Yeah.
A couple that you can trust, a couple that can understand y'all.
Yep.
You
That's
know,
good.
just because they're older doesn't mean they're wiser, right? But someone who understands your culture, your
That's
wiring.
huge.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they have to be of the same culture.
Right.
Their temperament, I think, is important too.
For sure.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like they could laugh at a couple things that
Right.
look crazy, like oh y'all tripping, like you know, and then bring you in. You know, I that's what I would say is grab an older couple that has wisdom, has temperament, that can walk with you guys through some of the early on issues that you're gonna have.
Yeah, I remember one of our very first counseling sessions, and I'm gonna say exactly who it was. It was Barry and Valerie Bradley from a church we used to go to, and we went to them, and I remember specifically so frustrated because I felt like you wouldn't do anything for yourself. You didn't want to get water for yourself. You didn't want to make a sandwich. You didn't want to do anything.
Put me on blast, girl. Put me on blast. Go ahead.
And I remember them sitting across the table, and they started laughing, and I didn't think it was funny at all. And I remember Barry, the husband, saying, I like when my husband, yeah, that'd be nowadays. I love when my wife makes a sandwich for me. I prefer her to make it. And I was thinking, you are not helpful right now. But I always remember that because they laughed. And I thought, okay, one day I'm going to be there. Well, right now, this is a big deal to me. But in years to come, I'm going to look back and go, it's going to be okay.
Right.
You know,
and that's what the older couple can do for you.
Exactly.
You know, to laugh at moments that actually look serious, to be able to look over your present circumstance. You know? And the scriptures constantly talk about that, how we already know what the end is.
Right.
You know, and there's hope. We're going to be with Christ. And so having that, like, you know, idea at the end helps us to deal with the present. Yeah.
What would you say, you know, we're talking about some of like the what I would consider like the smaller things, you know, living single, you know, not understanding each other. But what about those marriages that maybe in the first couple years or even maybe later, they're dealing with some serious issues, you know, whether it's, you know, an unbelieving spouse or, you know, adultery or, you know, even some of the things that we have witnessed as friends or as a pastor and a pastor's wife. And they're hard. They're hard things. They're not just like, I don't like, you know, the way my husband, you know, does the dishes. Like, what do you say to that?
To like some of the real stuff that happens?
Right. Yeah. That's really hard.
It's hard because I want to say things. I know what to say.
Right.
It's easy. You know, of course, there's things I could say.
Right.
I would say that as much as possible, if you're there and you're married and there's some craziness happening, some seriousness in your marriage, I think the best thing to do is to know your God and know yourself before your God.
Yeah.
And make sure that we always tell, so what we do with couples is, right, when there's something serious happening, we actually, we don't separate them like, you know, they live over here or whatever, unless, you know, that there's situations that warrants that. But what we do is take the focus off of them together and single them out with their relationship with God.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
because it's a vertical issue at that point.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So something's up with the vertical. And then we chop it up on that. Like, how's your relationship with God? What, you know, when we talk about God, what do you think I mean by God?
Right. Yeah.
What is the gospel? You know, what do the scriptures say? What, you know,
right.
And we discuss a lot on the vertical, and that really does fix the horizontal.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
sure.
saying? So as much as possible doing that instead of this, because a lot of times people focus on the horizontal first.
Yeah.
Okay, then, you know, let's see how you're not compatible, or let's talk about practical things and whatever and whatnot. But the vertical fixes the horizontal, the practical, you know. So that's that. I know that's kind of general, but yeah, if something serious is happening, it's because something's wrong.
Yeah, and I would say another thing I would plead with you guys, anybody that's out there that's really struggling in their marriage, is not to be hasty on making any decisions. Like, just wait. Let people walk with you. Be patient. You know, if a spouse is giving you divorce papers, wait. Don't sign right now. Wait.
Right.
Yeah, I would just say not to be hasty. And you know, today we were reading in Galatians. We're just finished. The ladies are finishing up. We're actually one chapter ahead of you guys. We're done. And it talks about if a brother has sinned, to restore him gently. And I don't think there is anything different when it comes to a spouse. A spouse has stumbled, a spouse has, you know, failed you, and has, it says to restore them gently and to be careful that you don't fall.
Right.
So I would say, the scriptures really have the answers, but I would say walk with somebody, be patient, and don't make any rash decisions.
No, that's good. That's really good. So because, you know, it's easy to say, well, you know, what you need to do is, you know, treat her like this, or you got to remember who she is.
Give them a do's and don'ts list.
And it's like, no. You gotta look up.
Yeah.
Look up. Something's wrong with that.
Right.
You know, and that's so hard.
It is hard.
Because you want to believe it's the other person that's at fault.
Yeah.
And they're the problem. You know, they're the issue. And it's like, well, they might be.
Right.
You know, but your issue is with your God.
Yeah.
You know, and you need to get with your God. And that's a dying thing, you know, die to self. That's what the scriptures say to do. And that's what I'm saying. I know what to say.
Right.
But it's hard to do it.
It is hard.
You know? Very hard. Very hard. Especially when there's tragedy and fault and craziness in marriage. You know. So yeah. So I think that was good for newlyweds. I think that's a healthy, good, you know, bit for people. Misconceptions or stereotypes of marriage or marriage roles.
Oh wow.
Let's talk about those real quick.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You know, I really thought that, like I said earlier, because I've seen such dysfunction growing up, I really wanted my marriage to work and to look a particular way. Once I started learning, like once the first couple years kind of were out of the way, I really wanted to have the magazine or the Cosbys. And you were always the fault, not me, because we didn't have the Cosbys. So rather than to look at myself, so I would say a misconception is that marriage looks like this, and you fill in the blank. The only like this that it should look like is what the scriptures say, and everybody displays that in their marriage differently. You know, in its core, of course, the foundation is the same, but the way that looks, it's different.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Misconceptions.
I would say some misconceptions come from like your cultural background and you having already fixed idea of what marriage should look like. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of times people think that, you know, it should look like this. You know, a couple should dress like this, or they should talk to each other like this,
or they should pray together every day and every morning, have devotions.
That
would be wonderful.
But some of us work, you know what I'm saying, and so that's a good one too. You know, because there are some
They must fast together and pray together every day.
Right. So yeah, that could be.
That'd be great.
Right. Yeah.
I think another misconception, and I know we brought this up earlier, but sexual intimacy too. I know of a lot of couples that have always thought that it was going to change, certain things, or that now that they can, it's going to be this, fill in the blank. Yeah, it's not necessarily like that.
Right.
Yeah. Especially if they've struggled with pornography.
Right.
Thinking that this fantasy is what their marriage is going to be like. And
they think I need to get married because I'm struggling. It's like you have no idea.
Right.
The temptation increases. Things are more enhanced as we tell couples in marriage. So if you haven't already struggled with pornography and you don't understand that Christ is enough, when you get married, marriage enhances that.
Yeah, I remember somebody said to us early on too that I remember they were reminding us that there's still restraint in sexual intimacy, even as as married couples. So there might be a time, like we talked about, a woman who just had a baby. So a husband's going to have to practice some, restraints sometimes, and the woman as well. So there's some misconceptions in there as well, like what that's supposed to look like or be like.
Yeah, true that.